He's family, family, though he may go away. He has always been our family, and family he'll stay. I guess someone that you like can make you angry.
Hello, Land Before Time fans, and welcome to my next review for Land Before Time, where I review Land Before Time, The Big Freeze. I know, freeze. Good old Incredibles. Okay, The Land Before Time, The Big Freeze. This is the 8th movie in the franchise, released in 2001, straight to video, directed once again by Charles Grosvenor. And basically what we have going on in the plot in this film is that there's this ice storm, obviously, that comes into the valley, and the Spike-tails decide to leave because they consume more food than the rest of the gang. But there is a bit of tension as Spike himself finds his own family, essentially, well, his biological family. Sorry, just get comfortable. And then Ducky and Spike have a bit of a conflict and a bit of emotional drama. And then she's a bit down. We start to see Ducky go really angry. She's just got all this emotion in her, and she's just letting it out with Sarah's encouragement. And then she goes in search for Spike, and the children are being taught. Are being told about a lot of things in the mysterious beyond by this man known as what's his name, Mr. Thickhorn? I don't know. Oh no, Mr. Thicknose. Mr. Thicknose, who actually is voiced by Robert Guillaume, who voices Rafiki in The Lion King, believe it or not, the original film. And then it becomes another adventure in the Land Before Time. All the other kids go to find Ducky, and they also encounter a Sharptooth along the way, and then Spike has to make a choice about does he stay with his family who are in the valley, so Ducky and the DuckTales, or does he choose his biological family? And that's kind of it, really. The Land Before Time, The Big Freeze. Okay. This one was pretty good. I liked it. I won't say that it's perfect, but I will say that it was a very fun, entertaining film. And it was surprisingly emotional in quite a lot of places. It isn't perfect. For me, the first 15 minutes are a little bit slow. It takes a while for the story to get going. And then the movie kind of suffers from no antagonist. There's not really an antagonist in this film, and that was a shame. I kind of wish there was. I mean, you have the Sharptooth, but it doesn't really do anything in the movie. It just turns up for the end. It was just lazy writing. It was just, okay, let's just throw him in at the end just so they can have a big confrontation, so we can have a climax. It didn't really have enough impact for me. And also the songs, I wasn't really keen on them. The only one that was good, really, was the second one, which I can't remember the name of. Ducky starts to sing it. I think it's the one about family. Ducky's mother actually sings as well in this film. Other than that, the one that Thicknose sings, don't care for that. And the other one, which Sarah sings when she's trying to get Ducky to be angry, that doesn't work either. I find that a bit unnecessary. But other than that, it's a pretty good film. It's entertaining. I love the fact that this movie is essentially more of a character piece. It's quite mature in its direction. The fact that it centres around Ducky and Spike. I mean, the 7th movie was more Petrie's movie because that was about his uncle, Tyranno. So we got a little bit more development out of him. This time they've shifted the focus to Ducky and Spike. Spike particularly gets a bit more development. Even though Spike doesn't really talk in this movie, he does. You still understand his dilemma. He's got to choose between two different families, and I like that. They're finally giving him more character. And he makes this new little friend known as Tippy. And so he really is struggling emotionally to kind of choose a side, essentially, and Ducky is struggling emotionally to deal with the fact that Spike could be leaving, because Spike is like a brother to her, and I like that. And seeing Ducky completely rage is something I never expected to see in any of these films. She's normally this sort of sweetheart, total cutie. She's so lovely and so nice, and we just get to see her let rip in this film. She unleashes her rage and emotion, and she even comes out and says during one moment when Spike has to choose, she's like, well, if it's so hard, I'll make your choice for you. Go on, just go. She tells him to go away. That was powerful. I liked that, and we see her down, we see her depressed in this film, and this is really Ducky's film, Ducky and Spike. I mean, the others are in it. I mean, Littlefoot, Sarah, and Petrie, they're in it, and they're all good in the scenes they're in. But they don't do as much as the other two, and I love the fact that this one had a lot more emotion. Narratively, it is quite thin. The actual freeze itself, I mean, it looks great in animation. They don't make as much out of the situation, even though there's no stakes other than like emotionally. Physically, there aren't really many stakes in terms of survival with the freeze. They don't really make enough of that, but they do make up for it with the emotional weight of the story with Ducky and Spike's relationship. I like that. And Mr. Thicknose as a character was interesting. I kind of felt that Guillaume's performance was a little robotic at first. Like, he was kind of saying his lines like this. No, children, quiet, please. Like, it was very monotone. But as the film went on, we got to see a bit more of his story, and we got to see actually that he ends up being a bit of a liar, basically. But he does manage to redeem himself with everybody. I do think the plot, I mean, the sort of resolution of the story is a little bit lazy. I mean, the fact that they just find this kind of mountain with hot water, it's just like, really? And then obviously the season will just, melt the snow, and then everything goes back to normal. I thought the ending could have been a bit worked. It was a bit lazy, really. I mean, the fact that Spike came back obviously was good, and that was nice. But I felt like the rest of the ending could have been reworked, because it was a little bit lazy, and having Spike also nearly drown, it's just unnecessary. You didn't need to do it. It was just it was too long. It made the ending too long. The climax of the third act is too long. It's dragged out. You got the confrontation with the sharp tooth. They then get to the mountain of hot water, and then there's a bit of dialogue there. Spike comes back, and then he nearly drowns. It just goes on. It doesn't need to be as long as it is. I mean, the movie's 1 hour 15 minutes, so it's not exactly a long film, but it feels a bit long also because the first 15 minutes are slow. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but overall it's a pretty good, decent movie, I would say. With a surprising amount of heart and emotion. So I will give The Land Before Time, The Big Freeze, a 7 out of 10.
He's family, family, though he may go away. He has always been our family, and family he'll stay.
I also forgot to mention the animation is very good too. I like the new sort of animation. It looks a lot clearer and a lot cleaner. And the way they've animated the snow as well is good. The adults don't get a huge amount to do in this story. I mean, Sarah's dad gets a bit to do, but barely anything. The grandparents aren't in it very much, which is interesting. But yeah, so that's really all I could say. Also, Susan Krebs, I will give a mention to as Tippy's mother. She's good. She has some good dialogue moments. Aria Noelle Curzon, though, is probably the stand-up performance as Ducky, because she's just great. There are times when her voice is kind of going a bit like... I'm assuming that's because she's aging. I mean, she's trying to make Ducky still sound very young, but there are times when it kind of slips in, as if she sounds a little older. I mean, I don't know how long Aria Noelle Curzon stays in the role, but I'm sure that, I mean, her performance is still great, so I'm not questioning the performance. But it's noticeable that her voice is changing, so to speak. So yeah, the Big Freeze. That's my review of the Big Freeze. So tune in next time when we look at the 9th movie in this franchise, which is called Journey to Big Water. So that's it for now, folks. And until then, I have to do one more thing before I close off. I should have realised this. I forgot in my previous review to give a shout out to one of my subscribers known as Anthony Ford. Sorry, I nearly forgot his name. I'm terribly sorry. Anthony Ford. This guy is a passionate fan of The Land Before Time, and he's been a regular commenter on my reviews since I reviewed the first one, and he loves this franchise. He loves this franchise. I mean, he adores it. So I just want to say thank you very much, Anthony, for your comments over the past 8 reviews, and I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for all your kindness. It really means a lot. And I will review all of these movies, but you have to be patient with me. I have a schedule, and I have other things to review as well. So that's why there's been a bit of a break between my previous review for Land Before Time and this one. But Anthony Ford, and also I forgot to shout you out in the previous review, so sorry about that. Because you did request me to do that, so I'm doing it now. So thank you very much, Anthony, and I look forward to reading your comments below. Okay, so that's my review of The Big Freeze. Stay tuned for the review of Journey to Big Water, and until next time, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. Thank you for watching, and see you later.